lawyers are increasingly mobile today, in part because that's the way the profession seems to be headed, but also because the technology's just made it so easy to do your work wherever you are. But unfortunately, this creates new security risks. When you're taking your technology with you outside of the office, you're typically taking your data with you as well, and we need to make sure that we're protecting that data even when we're outside the four walls of our office. So the obvious area of concern here would be mobile devices like iPads and iPhones. I would say as a basic level of security, you should make sure that on any mobile device, like a tablet or a phone, you should be using a password. So you should need to enter a password before you can access the device. And you should have remote wiping enabled so that if the device becomes lost, you have the ability to wipe the data off of it, so that whoever finds it doesn't have access to that data. Now, at a lot of law firms, these are actually the basic requirements that they make you sign off on before you have access to the firm's network through a mobile device. You should be following them whether or not that's the policy because it's just a good security best practice. If your device by default just wants a passcode, a 4-digit passcode or something like that, look for something more secure, a real password. It's usually an option that you can enable within your settings. And also be a little bit careful about the security methods or the unlock methods that involve swiping your finger around the screen. We've all noticed that when we use these mobile devices, we leave lots of fingerprints all over them, and there have been security studies that show that when people use the gesture passwords, it's not terribly difficult to discern what those passwords are by the well-worn fingerprints that people have left on the screen. So consider a password or a longer passcode instead of a swipe or a short PIN code. Also, with remote wiping, make sure that you know how to actually do the wiping before you lose the device. So this is something that people run into where they've lost their smartphone, they realize they need to wipe the data, but then they're suddenly trying to figure out, well, how do I actually do that? Especially if you're in an environment where you don't just have an IT department that you can call and say, I lost my smartphone, it needs to be wiped. You need to know the proper procedure so that you're ready to do it if the time should come. One of the simplest ways that you can protect yourself when you're on the go is to just limit the amount of data that you carry with you. If your laptop is completely stuffed to the brim with all of your client information, if it has every file associated with every open or closed matter that you've worked on in the last 5 years, that's a tremendously dangerous thing to be carrying around because if you lose it, you're potentially revealing a huge amount of data. The simpler method, if you're going out for a meeting, if you're going to court, just carry the documents with you that you could reasonably foresee that you'll need. Consider having a separate laptop that you just use for mobile, or have an encrypted thumb drive that you keep the files on and just keep the files that you need. Don't throw your entire client folder into your thumb drive. This is also an area where tablets like the iPad can be handy because they don't typically hold a lot of data, they just access the data online. If you're just going out for a meeting and you need something to be able to take notes and maybe check your email or pull down a file from a remote server, then something like an iPad might work better because it's going to allow you to do those things without actually lugging around the data on an internal hard drive that could be accessed. If you do want to use thumb drives on the go, I would really make sure that you're encrypting them. And you can use a free tool like TrueCrypt to do that. Thumb drives are incredibly easy to lose. They can fall out of your pocket. You can get them mixed up with somebody else's thumb drive. You can put them into the computer at a client site and then forget to grab it when you're leaving. Any number of things that can happen because they're so small and they're so portable. So make sure that you've got encryption if you're going to put sensitive data onto a thumb drive. And also be really careful about accessing public Wi-Fi networks, especially free public Wi-Fi networks. We're talking about the Wi-Fi networks that you're going to find in cafes and shops, or just sort of a municipal Wi-Fi network. The problem is that you don't necessarily know who else is on that network. Sometimes you don't know who created or hosts that network. So it's really dangerous to trust that the information that's being moved across the network is going to be safe. There actually have been tools developed that are designed to sort of sniff the traffic that's moving across the network. One of these tools allowed you to open up a list and see, these three people on the same Wi-Fi network were all accessing Facebook or Twitter or something like that. And then the people using this tool could then masquerade as the third person. So you access Facebook from a Starbucks, somebody else on the network sees that you're doing that, and they can masquerade as you to access your account, just using the information that's being passed around the network. Now, some Wi-Fi networks are more secure than others. Some may be more trustworthy than others, and some of these tools, or the loopholes that allow these tools to function, are being closed, but I'd still be really careful about it. If you're going to need online access outside of the office, consider getting a device that has the feature built in. So pick the iPad with the built-in 4G connectivity, or consider investing in a mobile hotspot device, sometimes called MiFis, which allow you to create your own personal private wireless network wherever you go.